This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation joining us here on the McClarty Daniel Hotline on a lovely Monday afternoon. Mike, good morning. Happy Super Bowl week. How you doing?
Well, okay. You know, I'm not just jumping through hoops, but I'm just going day to day.
Well, why not jumping through hoops? We don't have to watch Arkansas basketball for a few extra days. That's celebration enough, because it's just not a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a week off, but you got a week also to think about all this stuff and what you're going to have to deal with down the road, because they're now obviously in a position where, you know, it'd take a miracle turnaround to make the NCAAs or maybe some sort of miracle win the SEC tournament, which is not likely. And then you start asking NIT, and a lot of people are under the mistaken belief that you have to have a 500 record to get into the NIT. They changed that in 2017. So if they've got 9 games left, could they go 3-6 and get in? Probably not. So it's probably looking 4-5. Well, they've got 6 home games, and if they won, you know, maybe 4 of those, they could probably get in. But when you start looking at who they play, it looks like more like 3 would be more likely. So then you're just asking yourself, you know, if finishing 3 games below 500 gets you into the NIT.
Mike, do you think there needs to be a priority in recruiting in-state guys in both basketball and football? It seems like, I don't know what the formula is, but we're letting a lot of in-state guys leave, and it seems like the team does better when you have more in-state. Not that you don't need help from other places, but these coaching staffs are so enamored with guys from outside the state for some reason. I'd like to see them both, basketball and football, getting back to your roots and getting back to getting some in-state guys that are talented.
You know, most of us realize that because basketball, you don't have to have as many scholarships, and because Arkansas is loaded with every year with really good basketball players, that a guy like Musselman can get good in-state players. The issue is whether or not you keep them. Like, for instance, a blocker. I've had people tell me, oh, no, they need to let him go because he can't do this, he can't do that. I'm going, look, the guy's a freshman. He really loves Arkansas. You can tell he's just kind of, you know, he's probably pushing it some. But you need guys like that to be sophomores, to be juniors. And so, Matt, you're right. You need in-state players as glue on your team, football or basketball. And I think you've always got to have a certain number of those guys. Now, it's really a bigger problem right now in football because Missouri has come in here and, you know, he's really done some damage this last year. Now, I don't know if that will continue, but there's also a belief by some that Sam Pittman doesn't value in-state guys enough, that he is doing what you said, looking outside for other players, and you have to do that. But when do you reach a point where you say, okay, this guy right here may not be quite as good as this guy from Texas or Louisiana. He's an Arkansas kid. We got to have him. And I think if it's close, you always got to go Arkansas because they are the guys that will keep your locker room where it needs to be when you're having problems.
But that's not Musselman's MO. I think with this team or probably any other, it's looking in the portal. I mean, you knew that when he came here.
Well, and to my point, Phil, it's like your best in-state guys. He was able to get Nick Smith though, so that's what I mean. You got to be able to get your best in-state guys. That's kind of you have to. You just have to.
Yeah, but the other issue is if the 5 stars. I mean, we see what happens there. If they turn out to be real 5 stars, then they're going to be gone in 1 year. And that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, you have to get those guys. But to me, you still got to get a guy like, and this is not a good example with what's going on right now, but you need a Devo that stays here this long. And you really need more than one, maybe not more than 1 or 2, but you got to have some guys that are good players, but they're from the state of Arkansas, and they stay with you because, again, people keep asking me what's wrong with this team, and I look at it as you got a bunch of guys that came in here, they didn't know anything about the way this guy coaches, and they ran into some problems, and I think what's going on now is they're pushing back against him because it's hard to accept a guy that has that kind of discipline, but it's easier if you're winning. If you're not winning, that's when the pushback starts. And that's when you need people on that team to say, hey, man, you got to do this. You just got to do it, because believe me, in the long run, it'll pay off. And they just don't have that. So I still think you need one or two guys that maybe aren't NBA, go to the NBA after 1 or 2 years, but they'll stay with your program for 4 years.
I think
from the state of Arkansas.
And I don't know how much have you seen Darian Ford play, but I think he would be another guy that you would like to see him stay for another year. And
that was a mistake. I think it was a mistake.
Well, I think it's obvious though when for next year, it's going to be the same as this last year. You're going to be plugging in spots from the portal, and you hope that you got the right NIL dollars to get whomever it is that you want. So that they can play the right kind of defense, because that's the difference right now. You go back and look at some of the recent numbers under Muss. This is by far and away statistically the worst basketball team that he's coached defensively here at Arkansas and at Nevada. And, I mean, if they're not careful, you'll end up with the most points per game allowed in the last 30 years at Arkansas. And the teams that are on the schedule coming up, that's the thing. I can't believe that they made Will Baker look like he was Dirk Nowitzki. That was I wasn't ready for that.
Well, some of that, honestly, though, you could have a guy shooting against air in practice, and he might not do that. I mean, that's part of this. And they had a week off, and they had lost 3 straight games, so you got plenty of motivation. And you give somebody a week to prepare for this team, and you know all their weaknesses, but you still have to hit those shots, and that's what they did early in the game. I mean, they're jacking up threes like you're making layups. And at some point, you say to yourself, when does Arkansas play a team and they sort of are what they usually are? And again, some of it is what they're not doing defensively, but some of it is they're not playing like they played in these last 3 games. They're suddenly better. And except for Missouri, I'm not sure I've seen a team play Arkansas in the SEC and didn't look better than they usually look when I watch them play other teams. Again, some of that may be Arkansas's defense, but I think some of it is just bad luck.
Yeah, Missouri's not they're not very athletic either, and like what you're talking about, Phil, given that defensive stat, I've watching the Hogs play, and 90% of the teams we play against, their roster's better than our roster. You look at their length, their athleticism. So we're kind of behind it there, but I think we'll get it right next year. Hey, Mike, the Super Bowl's coming up. It's going to be here. How are you going to consume it, and what are your kind of thoughts right now? Because I guess we won't have you on before the Super Bowl goes. How do you see the Super Bowl going?
Well, I think Kansas City will probably win, but on the other, and I am a Chiefs fan, I like them, but when you got 2 Hogs in there, even though one of them's not going to play, Brandon Allen, I got to go with them. So I'm going to be sitting here and thinking, okay, I'm a little bit conflicted here, but I want to see the Niners win this thing. But, Kansas City's got this thing going, and they got those 2 guys that everybody talks about, one of them in particular. So we'll see. You got people hating on them because they're tired of this Swiftie stuff. To me, it's irrelevant. I mean, you don't have to. I've watched them play, and I don't recall even seeing a shot of her up in the skyboxes. Maybe I was asleep when it happened.
Well, you get the best roster. I mean, over the last couple years, 49ers have 9 All-Pros on that offense. But
That's wild.
Then you get the best quarterback with Kansas City.
Yeah. I mean, what you hope for is a good game. That's what you always hope for, the Super Bowl. And sometimes it's not super. Sometimes it's a lopsided game, and it's not fun unless you're really involved and invested with one team. But that's what I'd hope for. That it'd be a good, fun game to watch, go back and forth. And when it's over, you go, yeah, that was a good Super Bowl.
Hey, Dre's got a chance to etch his name in football lore here. Think of it as the kind of game in the Super Bowl that he had against Green Bay.
Just gets 1 turnover.
One, even one. Never mind 2. Like the last guy that had 2 interceptions in a Super Bowl won the Super Bowl MVP and got a huge free agent contract based off of that. Like, I mean, Dre's
Yeah.
got a chance to really, like, he's already made his mark in the NFL, but if you have a game in the Super Bowl that stands out, that elevates you to a whole other stratosphere.
Yeah, and he's such a great guy. And somebody on the Ask Mike is comparing him to Michael Orr, and it's a real similar story. And they're wanting to know if somebody will make a movie. Well, I'm not sure you'd want a movie because that Blindside movie may have made money, but it didn't work out very well for the Orrs and the Tuohys. So maybe Dre doesn't need a movie made about his life. But I agree with you. It'd be great to see him play really well in this game and then just make some money off this.
Mike, one thing I'd like to see, and just to kind of end on an Arkansas basketball note, for those fans who are disappointed and are kind of giving up on men's basketball, there's another month left for the women's basketball season. And this team right now is playing, I think, better than a lot of other teams would have had they lost their top scorer for a month. And already we're dealing with issues with a lack of depth and just getting tougher and the style of play and all of that. I mean, they're not a shoo-in for the NCAA tournament, but if they keep playing the way they are, they'll get in. And, I mean, so the men's team probably won't make it. Well, root for the women's team. They're the Razorbacks, too.
Yeah, that was a great win last night. I was really invested watching that. They looked dead in the water, and all of a sudden they start scoring points and coming back, and, all of a sudden your great freshman – that came back and didn't play well in her first game back, now is doing her thing again, and she makes a huge difference with this team. But it was really a team effort. Now, I didn't like the officiating last night. I thought when they got up by 12, the officials got involved in that thing and got Auburn going again. And I thought, they're going to lose this game. But then give them credit because the last 10, 15 seconds of that game, they just did what they had to do to win it.
Mike, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week after Super Bowl Sunday, okay?
I'll see you.
Thank you, Mike.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.